Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to NEWSROOM. I'm your host, Omar Khalid. But today is the 5th of January 2023. And today our topic is going to be sustainable development. How important is it to not only bridge the gaps between different sectors of society, but also bring a country like Pakistan towards real development. Development is something that countries like Pakistan need, and the different methodologies and principles that are behind it are also very important. And for that, sustainable development is an extremely important tool. There was very recently, in fact yesterday, a conference that was held on bridging the industry and academic gap for sustainable development in Pakistan, and I think it's very important to bridge that gap. It aims to close the industry and academic gap for sustainable development. Of course, it is, as you know, sustainable development is a very important tool to meet human development goals while also sustaining the ability of natural systems to provide natural resources and ecosystem services on which the economy and the society depend. We have three important guests from that very conference who join us live in the studios. Let me introduce them to you one by one. On my very right is Dr. Kim Stansfield. He's a director and founder of Vocate, and you come all the way from the United Kingdom. Dr. Stansfield, welcome to our show. Our second guest is Dr. Freeha Azmat. Dr. Freeha Azmat is a Pakistani, gone to the United Kingdom, and of course makes us proud as Pakistanis to not only be a woman but a woman of substance in Warwick. She is the director and she is associate professor WMG at the University of Warwick. Thank you very much, Freeha, to have come from Pakistan back to Pakistan from the United Kingdom, bringing back guests to further bridge that gap and talk about sustainable development. And our last guest comes all the way from South America, Professor Fernando Colmenares. He's the National Head of Engineering Research at the UCC. It's an important education institution in Colombia. Thank you very much, Dr. Colmenares, to have joined us, and of course to be here in Pakistan all the way from the South of America. Let's begin with you, Kim. Kim, you discuss sustainable development in many an organization, in many countries, but the tools that are used and the mechanisms that are used for sustainable development vary from country to country, whether it be the application of it or the methodology that are used in it. How important are countries like Pakistan, and how important is bridging that gap in order to make our country more developed and to further encourage sustainable development in different sectors?
Yeah, this is a critical piece, because my view of sustainability is it has to be not only focused on environmental, but also on social and economic sustainability. I worked previously with Dr. Azmat at Warwick WMG, and that was built on the vision of bridging the industry-academia gap by Professor Lord Bhattacharya 40 years ago. And he's been building it, so it's now the biggest department of Warwick. I retired at the end of 2020, but what I'd learnt in my work experience prior to going to university in 2016, going as a lecturer and an associate professor, was really we need to engage all the stakeholders to understand the problems associated with that individual country or region, whatever it might be, and what are the real challenges we're trying to solve. So I sum that up and call that systems thinking. Understand the system you're looking at, understand the problems that are being faced.
That is at the same time an easy or a difficult process. It depends on how much you are able to penetrate into the mindsets of the people that you talk to, the different sectors that you manage to discuss with the different aspects of sustainable development. And the more you delve into it, the easier it becomes for the other parties to understand how to move forward, isn't it?
Absolutely. So one of the critical things you touched on there is actually getting engagement. It's not just about talking to people, it's about listening to them and starting to understand and getting them involved. I've worked for some time with Professor Colmenares at the end there, and one of the key things we've come to is it's about co-creation. It's about bringing expertise from wherever, but also bringing the local capability to the fore.
And kind of bridging them together so that new solutions could be brought about.
Absolutely, and there is economic flow that starts when industry starts realizing academia helps us achieve our goals, but we also help university understand our problems.
Exactly, and I think it also goes back to the University of Origin, whether it be Warwick, whether it be Columbia, and sometimes you in the whole wake of teaching others, you learn a lot as well.
Yeah. I have said this a number of times that the great joy of lecturing is actually when you're learning off the students as much as they're learning off you. You hope that you're transferring more knowledge, but sometimes you think, no, I've learned more.
That is so true. Which brings me to Freeha. Freeha, what gave you the idea of making this conference and making this conference in a university in Chakwal of all places, and then bringing in people from South America and the United Kingdom together to look at new solutions as far as sustainable development is concerned?
All right, so firstly, thanks for giving the opportunity to come to the show today. And I'd like to tell you that I have background in engineering from NUST, and I went to UK in top universities for my PhD and masters. While I was doing my studies at UK, I always have that feeling that I have to give back to my homeland. And since, you know, several years, I've been thinking how I can go. Either I can just, you know, move myself to Pakistan, or either I collaborate with some universities. So fortunately, last year, I was able to be Minister of Higher Education and IT, Raja Mohammad Yasir Sarfaraz. And it was very fortunate, I would say, the changing point that he gave me a vision to work for University of Chakwal. He connected me to worthy Vice Chancellor, Professor Muhammad Bilal Khan. And the thing common between myself and Minister is that we are from Chakwal, so we started thinking for the region first, common ground. And we started working for Chakwal first, and we thought we'll take it to other, you know, parts of Punjab, you know, later as well, and even for federal. As I'm part of NUST as well, so obviously that's close to my heart as well. So I'll be, you know, working for that. And Bahria University, I worked there, you know, for my workplace as well. The one thing why I bring the idea of academia and industry gap, because I've been working in Warwick with top tier organizations, and as Kim mentioned, our department itself is providing the programs for the companies like Jaguar Land Rover, for Dyson, for Goldman Sachs, like top tier organizations of the world. And we are equipping their employees with the skills, right skills, right knowledge and behaviors to be ready for the graduation. So I was thinking about that model to bring to Pakistan as well. So I thought, let's bring the stakeholder together who can make this model work. Let's bring industry, let's bring academia, let's bring government, you know, into the scene so that we can really see how we can bring all stakeholders, as Kim said, and we can bridge that gap. One of the problems in Pakistan is that we think about the graduates only, like, you know, to have the knowledge, that if you get good grades, you have good knowledge, you're ready for the job.
That is just part one of everything, isn't it?
Exactly, that's the part one, but the skills and the behaviors is missing. And even the skills is technical skills and the soft skills. If you think about programmer, you can program, it's a technical skill. But if you're not able to collaborate, if you're not able to communicate, if you're not able to do any team working, there's no need for such a software developer or the programmer, because you need to actually deploy that in the, you know, a bigger project as well. So I think we need to think about technical skills, soft skills at the same time here in Pakistan.
But what kind of technical skills or soft skills are you looking at when it comes to Pakistan?
Okay, so I think in Pakistan, even the worldwide, I would say digital skills is a big gap because the world is becoming internet of everything. We are relying on Alexa, Google Assistant, our smartphones, on Twitter, on Facebook, on, you know, Insta. What it's all about, this is social media, and this is all driven by digital transformation. Even you think about a manufacturing organization, they are relying on digital transformation. When organization like Jaguar Land Rover came to WMG to design a degree apprenticeship program, that's a company which is manufacturing the cars, but they wanted data analysts, software engineers, they wanted network engineers. So basically the digital skill is the key to unveil all solutions in the future. So the biggest thing to focus in the future is basically towards data analytics, artificial intelligence, industrial robotics, mechatronics, digital twins. And they will drive our manufacturing, aerospace, medical sector. And then on top of that, you need soft skills, as I mentioned to you. You need to teach professionalism, collaboration, communication within the classrooms. It's not like you teach them as a module, like a traditional sense that, you know, pick up a professional skills module and let's teach them how to do the teamwork. That's not taught in that way. You have to make the team, and that's been done in each module during the journey, so people can really see how to connect to people, how to network, how to share the knowledge, and how to make that work and apply in different you know, scenarios as well. So we need to embed our soft skills within the technical skills, and that has to be imparted on top of knowledge.
When it comes to Colombia, Dr. Fernando Colmenares, how important has been this skill gap for students at your university and other universities in Colombia, and how much of that skill set have you been able to impart to your students and others while talking to them? Because I think, as Freeha has very ably pointed out, bridging that gap is extremely important, and imparting new skills and combining skills of different kinds is also very important in order to make any person or organization sustainable.
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me in here.
You're welcome.
This is very important. Yeah, I'm part of the Faculty of Engineering, so we have more technical skills there. So what we are doing right now is to teach our students to develop the soft skills, but also to take advantage of the skills coming from other disciplines, because we can solve, a problem or a challenge that the communities, especially in Colombia, the vulnerable community have, if we only approach that using engineering theme. So we need to have, in the team, sociologists, psychologists, anthropologists, as well, in order to understand the worldview of the communities, because it's so important, to design with the community the solution for them. For instance, for energy, for water, for education, because they have, the culture and the perception of the world is so different.
But that is very important. You brought out about culture. I think a lot of times the industry is pushed by the cultural values of any country or any society, whether it be Colombia, where the cultural values are different, or Pakistan, or the United Kingdom, for that matter. I think that is also somehow, somewhere, a tool that needs to be modified so that we can adapt ourselves to the newest skills. Do you feel that is happening in countries like Colombia?
Yeah, it's happening. And this is one of the priorities, from the Colombian government. I mean, first of all, to start understanding the real needs of the territory. We have a lot of indigenous communities, Afro communities. Colombia is so diverse in general that you need really approach them and starting talking to them, not only to understand the needs, but also the solution, because the solution may come from them. They got, ancestral knowledge that has to be taken into account, with our knowledge. We have to be very humble, to approach them, because sometimes you feel so proud that I got a PhD and
exactly.
So on, and going there.
And they don't know this is just the first step in many other steps that they're going to take.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But Fernando, coming back to education and the industry, these are two different aspects and two different steps that any student takes. He or she studies like all of you have, and then of course after a certain level you start working in any industry, whether it be education or otherwise. How do you make each other understand, that is the industry, to make them understand the values or the needs of the education sector, and vice versa?
Yeah, in Colombia we are facing that challenge in general because we are not very well connected. So what we are doing right now is to collaborate with the industry, to set up, common projects together, and then to understand really what are the needs coming from the industry. But also they may understand, what, requirements we can provide, to the curriculum of the, for instance, the program, engineering program. But as my colleagues mentioned, one of the big gaps is to develop, the team skills, to work as a team, also to communicate, the results. We are so good in technical things, but we don't know how to communicate them.
Exactly.
In general.
And it's a lack of communication that results in a lot of issues, many a times.
That's right. And especially when you have different stakeholders. It's not only in the industry, you have the government, the policy makers as well. You have the communities that you are bringing the solutions to. So we need to be very open to them and listen carefully what really they need in general. At what is required from the academia as well. And this is the vice versa,
But I think that is very important, that needs to be modified and pushed forward as per the requirements of different countries, which brings me to Pakistan. And Kim, you were here at the University of Chakwal, brought by Freeha. What was the reaction like when you talked to the different students or academicians? What was their point of view? Were there any commonalities? Were there any points of interest?
So this for me is really interesting because through my work experience in a number of different fields, starting with manufacturing but moving into control systems, energy systems, renewable energy systems, a whole range of different areas, you see some core problems which are shared. Now, at the conference yesterday, we had vice chancellors and senior people from industry sharing, and what you started to hear were some of those shared problems.
Yeah.
And so much of it comes down to human behaviour. And this issue about have we worked together to understand and trust each other to communicate effectively.
But this human behavior that you talk about, Kim, do you feel it is the similar all across the world, or does it depend on societal values?
So it's certainly influenced by societal values. We heard from one person that was talking about raising the rights of women in society, and how do we defend those rights and enhance them. And certainly this is one of the issues that might change in terms of the level at which it has to be done. But with that person, I was able to discuss the fact that we have similar problems back in the UK, but maybe not as extreme. So it is that sense of the problems are often similar, but understanding the different levels to understand how do we now put real effort into almost moving that out of the way so it becomes a blockage. So how do we change that? And one of the issues that came out there was there is so much potential talent that is untapped.
Look at Freeha. She is exposed
she's a
Pakistan's
role
talent.
model. She's a role model. And I've got to say, when we interviewed her, she stood out from all of the candidates.
Thank
And,
you.
and there was a whole group
And
of
we've
us.
got a plethora of such students here in Pakistan.
There were, I think, 250 students in the audience, and most of them seemed to want to have selfies with myself and Fernando at the end, because people kept saying, "Can you get on the bus now, Kim?" No, I've just got another 5 selfies.
There's this interest level, and I think we need to further delve into that interest, whether it be in how to bridge the gaps, whether it be how to involve more and more women folk, which brings me to Freeha. Freeha, you've been very instrumental as far as working for human rights and women's rights is concerned. How important is education for women in a country like Pakistan? I know our country, our society promotes it. Unlike some countries, especially in our neighborhood, that we are seeing policies that are detrimental to women's education. But for Pakistan, there's a huge, how should I say, avenue for women's education. Do you feel women need to also be given the required skill set as per their requirements? Because we see that there's a little difference as far as how women go forward once they get educated into the practical field. Some leave it to pursue their normal marital career, or some others want to have a good balance between the two. How can you gauge which woman wants to do what? Do you feel there's a certain level during the educative process where you need to make the women understand how they need to go forward with it?
So I would like to say this topic is so close to my heart because, you know, women education, especially women empowerment, like women should be leaders. That is something which, you know, I've been saying at Warwick as well, because when you see even women in UK, the women in STEM is a gap in UK, is a developed country in UK as well. So we are trying to address that gap in UK by bringing more women there. And here the problem, as you said, women try to get the education until the marital status, and then they think, or either their husbands think, okay, now there's no time for the job. So I think we need to educate, obviously, the men in the society as well, that there is a space.
And there's so many things that you can do working from home, you know.
Yes.
So many businesses that you can work on.
To be honest, since COVID, like maximum of the work in universities as well, you can do in home. Work from home is the opportunity, and that helped me to raise my 3.5-year-old kid, because I was able to work in COVID at home as well. But one thing which I like to share is that in UK we have a charter which is for gender equality, and that's called Athena Swan. And that's promoting at universities to improve the women representation, not only until undergraduation or post-graduation level, but also to the women leaders. And basically what we are trying to do is we are trying to educate the women at different levels, from undergraduate to post-graduation, and even for jobs, even for maternity leaves, even after they come from break, we facilitate them. We give them opportunities to keep continuing, because women have different responsibilities by nature. We need to be mothers, we need to be the raising our homes as well. So this is something we need to address in Pakistan as well, that if there is a lady getting married, okay, that's taken on board. People understand she take a career break, but she can come back after some time. On a maternity leave, she can go for a leave, but she can come back with the same zeal and she can continue. And by nature, women are made to be multitaskers. They will be able to manage this
stronger
work.
than men, I can tell you that.
Yeah. So I would say the
Completely.
things we need to bring in the societal change, and women education definitely is very necessary, and that's bring a change in overall society. And we need to bring more and more women towards science and even towards leadership as well, so that they can actually become role models for the next generation.
True. You know, coming from Pakistan, having studied in both Bahria University and NUST, you understand Pakistan much better than the two gentlemen. What do you feel are the key demands of the product, industrial processes and applications that are necessary for raising the national economy of Pakistan?
So I think, as I mentioned earlier as well, that digital skills and digital transformation is the future for, you know, the nation as well, and that's underpinning different sectors, from medical to automation to, you know, automotive sector. We need that. But on top of that, when I talked about that knowledge, skills and behavior, we need that within our graduates, that they are ready for actually applying the skills at the right time too. Apart from that, I think need for industry-defined curriculum is really a big objective here.
And at the level at which it needs to be highlighted.
Exactly. Currently what we do in Pakistan most of the time is that we give students an opportunity, maybe exposure to 6 months in an industry and maybe a final year project, and even that's the...
In the form of an internship.
In the form of internship, and that's the maximum we are doing. But what's happening in West, and especially in UK, and that's what I'm trying to bring in here in Pakistan, we have industry-defined curriculum from day one. Industry is working with academia from day one. If you have an undergraduate program of 4 years, that's particularly focused for industry. If you have a postgraduate program, then it's for leaders and the managers for industry, but that's again mapped with industry. So a consortium of industries, they sit together, they define what they want in 10 years. If you have industry in automation, they define what they want in 10 years. If you have industry in medical science, they define, and then the curriculum is defined. And then automatically it closes the skills gap. We are, as Kim mentioned that, and Fernando as well, their stakeholders communication is missing. So if we bring them academia and industry from day one together and we try to create a bridge and they're continuously talking to each other, then we are able to make the graduates which are, you know, ready
But
for the
at what
future.
level do you start making those linkages? Should you make it at the secondary education level, beginning of university education? That's a huge question mark, and I think that all depends also on the skill set that you are trying to learn or you are being imparted. I think, in your point of view, as somebody who understands Pakistan, what needs to be done? At which level does it need to begin?
I think that's again a very good question, because as you said, the whole pipeline is, you know, missing at the moment. Sorry.
It's all right.
Yeah. So basically we have, you know, a lot of kids which are entering the schools and the women as well, but who are actually reaching the college and reaching the universities is very less. So we need to start working from the school level all the way taking them to the college. So the fundings need to be at the school level, educating the people to pursue further to college. People then going towards you can say professional careers as well. They need to have mentoring, and then from there on you can build further gaps. So I think industry needs to be started from school level to college to even, you know, the university, and that's what we are trying to do somehow in UK as well.
That's a very important thing to do in this current day and age, because we are in the 21st century, and this is an age where the skill sets need to be imparted from an early age, and we need to understand and make the children and our future generations understand what needs to be done and how they need to go about it. Also, we need to understand our youth as well as to what their mindset is, what they are capable of, what they are not capable of. Not put them into a skill set which they might not be good for in the next 10 years or 20 years, but make them understand what they are good at and then, or passionate for, and then push them towards that. Colombia and Pakistan, Fernando, how similar or not are these two countries as far as the education processes are concerned, the skill gaps are concerned, the industries are concerned? Did you find any similarities? I know you have an expertise as far as energy is concerned, and Pakistan is moving towards a clean and green energy. We are going towards electric motorbikes. We are going towards, you know, forms of electricity that will be using less of energy. does Colombia also understand the needs of becoming clean and green? And B, how is the whole education process in Colombia adapting to the new needs of energy and otherwise?
Yeah, thank you very much for this question.
A lot of questions.
So we have a lot of similarities between Colombia and Pakistan. So we are facing the same challenges in terms of the education as well. So one of the policies coming from the government is to connect, you know, the primary and secondary education with the university, because this is, you know, education, lifelong education approach. And this has to be also connected with the vocation that is coming from the territories.
True.
Because sometimes when you have a curriculum that is a standard to the whole country, it's not going to work. Because the needs coming from that territory may not require that skill that you are developing. So you need to understand
what the industry needs, and B, what is the skill set that you can impart on that particular student?
That's right, that's right. But we have similarities, as I said before. So also the government is putting this in a way. So this is why especially the Minister of Education in Colombia and Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation are working together.
All right.
To put,
That's
you know, programs together and really to put this in alignment, because we highly believe that if we educate people, or this is the knowledge-based economy that Colombia wants to develop, of course you need to put all these things together. And regarding the energy, we are in the process of the energy transition. So despite that Colombia got a very, let's say, clean, you know, energy metrics, we produce 67% of the energy is coming from hydroelectric power.
All right.
Yeah, and the rest, yeah, we have 27% of thermal power. So that's being replaced now by renewable energy. So we are trying to put also, you know, the education, the programs to train these people for this new scenario, okay? So one of the things also, this is the development of hydrogen as a fuel. So we don't know about hydrogen, we have a huge potential, but of course we need to start, you know, changing the mindset.
Changing the mindset is something that could be easy and very difficult at the same time, and it needs tactics from all the different sectors involved, whether it be the industry or the educational sector. Do you feel that the challenges are paramount, are important for Colombia, or do you feel that the different sectors are adapting to these challenges slowly and steadily? Yeah, all the sectors are adapting to these challenges. In general, we belong to Colombia is one of the countries that is contributing to the Sustainable Development Goals. Okay, it's highly involved. Yeah, it's highly involved, and all the development plans that are in our territory is connected with the 17, you know, Sustainable Development Goals. So we need to connect everything and to compromise. But also the government is giving, you know, incentive, you know, to develop, you know, renewable energy, of course, clean water to help, you know, communities in general. Also the industry, you know, being a sponsor, you know, to capture, you know, that talented people as well, because there is a huge gap in opportunities, you know, for the people that are being graduating now. That is very important, and those challenges need to be met with and catered to at the earliest and with the best expertise possible. I think that is very important. Kim, what recommendations in your point of view can you give us as far as continuing to advance to meet the global challenges agenda is concerned? And do you feel that this global challenges agenda is country specific, society specific, or educational standard specific?
I think what we're looking at here is this whole issue of making sure that we join the different stakeholder groups, understand how to get them working in what I would describe as a systematic way. Professor Colmenares has referred to getting alignment. So many of the techniques I've learnt come out of Japan, where you align with vision, what are the practical day-to-day things you do, and you also align to what are the voice of the customer is a key thing. Understanding who those customers are, understanding what the model of tomorrow, the business models of tomorrow will be, and then aligning the skill sets. Now, you ask, are they country specific? The priority of them is country specific. So actually getting the stakeholders understanding what is specific to our country is critical. And therefore, what is our response, either as educators, as industrial organisation, or as policymakers? Indeed, what are the students looking for? So a critical stakeholder group, you know, and you could say these are the customers, but they're also the deliverers of tomorrow.
Exactly.
So for me, it's absolutely mission critical, particularly for Pakistan, Colombia, I think also for the UK, to start building these engagement models that allow people to work together, to understand the complexity of the problems, but then to deliver solutions which really attack the problems that are being faced by society. And that's where the 17 United Nations
Sustainable Development Goals come in place. The next two questions, I'd like short answers to them, but they are very important questions, so I'd like the point of view of the both of you. First, from Freeha, can industry academia link be forged naturally in your point of view? Or do you feel that a government policy framework is required in that respect? Do you feel industrial executives have to approach key research think tanks in that regard as well?
So with regards to small steps, what we can say, industry and academia can work together, and they are taking in some good universities in Pakistan already, which means they are giving internship opportunities. Today we saw NUST Business Science and Technology Park, and basically there are a lot of industries which are sitting there and students already working there. There are startups. But I think if the government will come there as a stakeholder and they will try to motivate, that will be the driving force. So I can quote an example from UK here, that degree apprenticeships is something which is driven by the government in UK. And what happened there is that there was a levy introduced, there's a tax introduced on the industries that if you have £3 million over bill, you are paying a certain amount towards your upskilling your employees. So your government made it like, driving force, and that's how now industries are moving towards more degree apprenticeships or moving towards more academia. Like industries are approaching actually universities. So I think the game-changing thing, or the game-changing stakeholder is government.
All right.
But definitely industry and academia, the small steps you can take without government policy, which is about like internships, about projects.
But all of those,
programs.
sectors need to come together along with the government in order to forge a stronger relationship and bridge all those gaps that we've been talking about since the beginning of the show. Finally, Professor Fernando Colmenares, how, in your point of view, can industry academia collaborate to alleviate poverty? This is something that a lot of developing countries go through, and improve the socio-economic indicators of countries such as Pakistan. And do you feel it can incorporate poor, low-skilled workforce into its fold as well?
Yeah, it's very, very important to do so. Yeah, but I would like to mention that really the government is key actor for that. And also in Colombia, they are trying, to run different approaches or programs in general to get involved not only people coming from the academia in terms of a university, but also the technical schools as well. We need to connect them, with the reality or the needs that we have in Colombia. So they are running, programs where not only incentive in terms of the taxes, but also money to solve the challenges that we are facing, again in the territory, because Colombia now is in the process of peace. So we have a lot of,
different
land
sets of challenges
available,
and of course land available to work towards that goal.
And this is the point, many former guerrillas from FARC are now, integrating into the society. So we need to embrace them.
Exactly.
And to teach them new skills in general.
And again, bridge the gaps between those people who want to enter the society again, so that they can be important pillars of the society. I think this is what any society, any government, any nation wants, that its people are strong enough to sustain the country and take it towards economic growth.
This is the true meaning of sustainability.
Exactly, and that is what sustainable development is all about.
You need to do that as soon as possible, otherwise those people are going to be recruited by mafia.
Exactly,
because
or
the skill of work.
other elements that can use them for nefarious purposes. I think that's a very important point that you've raised, Professor Colmenares, and I'd like to end on this very note, that the bridging gaps is not only important, I feel it's primordial. It's primordial because there are different people with different social backgrounds, with different skill sets, with different educational backgrounds. The industry needs to understand what their backgrounds are, work accordingly, and make them important members of the society so that they can contribute towards the development of the nation, whether it be Pakistan, the United Kingdom or Colombia. I think that is the whole main purpose of bridging industry and academia, so that we can have a country that we can call developed, so that we can have proper sustainable development in the true sense of the word in that respect. Thank you so very much, Dr. Kim Stansfield, Director and Founder of Vocate, Dr. Freeha, Azmat, pleasure to have you here, Associate Professor, WMG, University of Warwick, and Professor Fernando Colmenares, National Head of Engineering Research at the UCC, coming from 3 different backgrounds, 3 different cultures, and talking about one single thing, that is how to bridge the academia and the industry in order to forge a development in all different nations across the world.
Yeah.
I think, I hope that the word goes across, and I hope that people get the point on how to move forward and how to make a more resilient and a strong nation and society. Thank you very much to all 3 of you. Ladies and gentlemen, with that we come to an end of today's Newsroom. It was an interesting show, a different show rather than my normal show where I talk about other topics as well. But it's very important for any society, including that of Pakistan. Sustainable development is the key word as far as taking a country like Pakistan forward. I hope you got the point. Allah Hafiz.